Okay. Can you start a podcast with me, please? I need something to do.
Send it out in front, provoking the save this game! Elias Lindholm looks to the heavens.
Here's a chance, Pucker right in the goal, he scores. Oh my, what a move by the rookie.
2-on-1, Pasternak moving in with Marchand, get it to it, score!
The zone, Hoyle dances in, backhand, score!
Lindholm, right wing corner, Pasternak is there, he scores! David Pasternak wins it for Boston!
Welcome in, everyone, to a special live episode of Bruins Tape to Tape. I'm your host today, Caroline with a K, and I'm joined by my fantastic co-host, Maria Watertown. Hey, Maria, how's it going? Happy Free Agency Day.
Happy Free Agency Day. Happy first official day of retirement for me. So monumental in both cases.
That's wonderful news. That is awesome. Well, we also have lots of other big and exciting news here on the pod.
Yes, we do.
Today, July 1st, is the start of season 3, which is crazy to think that this is our third season that we're going to be starting together.
I can't believe you've been able to put up with my craziness for 3 years.
Hey, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a ton of fun. And to kick off our third season, the biggest news yet for us that we have decided to go independent. And so, you know, we spent the last year as part of the Hockey Pod Network, and we thank THPN so much for all of their assistance and help and education. But we're ready to go out into the world on our own again. And as part of that, we have merch to celebrate. So definitely check the show notes for links to that. We also have a Patreon account now. So if you want to support the pod and get some ad-free listening, that is going to be available. We're a little bumpy start, but it's there, and we're going to make sure that all of our episodes are ad-free and in that location for you. So definitely check out all of that stuff. We also have a little bit of a brand refresh. So see if you can spot the little difference. Very extra big hat tip to friend of the pod, Adrian, for supporting us in that and lending his incredible creative eye to all of that, because it's definitely not my wheelhouse. So
no, and I do want to thank, we have a wonderful village in our Discord, and they have been so super supportive and encouraging and helpful to us. So my heartfelt thanks to them, you know, Adrian, Mo, Mary Beth, Grant. I mean,
Jesse,
everyone that's in that group with us. And, you know, I would encourage any of you to join our Discord group, because it's an awesome, safe, and healthy space to share takes and thoughts on the Bruins or anything NHL related.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, it takes a village. So we certainly encourage all of our listeners to join that community, because it's a lot of fun, and you don't have to be a hockey expert to participate in game day conversation, because we love to hear from everyone.
And we learn from each other. I know I learn a lot of, you know, stuff from our Discord members, and you know, it's nice to get an alternative insight when you're rah, you know, which I have a tendency to do when it comes to our Boston Bruins or some of the crap that happens in our beloved league.
Yep. Oh yeah. So that being said, hooray for us, but more exciting news is free agency. So I don't know if you've noticed this. And again, this is one of those things that, because we only talk about it literally once every year, I can't remember how it has happened in the past. But tons of activity for sign and trade, or, well, trade and signs and a lot of extensions coming in really at the 11th hour. We have a little spreadsheet that we use that, again, perks of being in the Discord. You get to keep track with us there. But well over 100 signings / extensions prior to the deadline this year. And part of me is wondering, and I want to get your take on this, Maria, as to why it seems like there's been quite so many.
I thought
Do you
about this,
think
and I have a take on it.
So do you think the reason behind it is the threat of offer sheets likely being a big thing this year? Or what's your take? Why do you think this is such a to-do this year?
Well, I think
Well-
there is some concern over that, more so not just the offer sheets, but the fact that because the salary cap went up and teams have extra monies to
Mhm.
throw at guys, that I think they really wanted to get their guys, those that they wanted to keep, certain franchises, locked and loaded before they potentially had an opportunity to go out there and be wowed by someone else's offer. And it was almost a little bit of a like,
Yep.
when you blow up a balloon and you start seeing the air coming out of the balloon, because all of this drama or the splashes happened yesterday or late last night. So here we are, free agency, and we're like, okay, who's left on the big board that anyone's really
No.
be interested in?
Yeah. It's very akin to what the NHL trade deadline had been for the last couple of years. So again, we've talked about this, that prior to this past NHL trade deadline, the 2 or maybe 3 years prior, teams weren't waiting till the 11th hour for that blockbuster trade on trade deadline day. It seemed like the start for the trades was really creeping further and further into February, and even at the very end of January. I was calling it like the Black Friday creep that used to exist. And then all of a sudden this year, the trade deadline kind of went back to quote unquote normal, what we are used to seeing. And so I kind of wonder if that's what's happened here. Again, everybody's just been super motivated to do business ahead of time. The new CBA is coming, so
Yeah.
who knows,
what
how
that's
any
yeah.
how any of that's going to be changed. There's a memorandum of understanding that's out right now, but it's not officially out yet. So, when we get the official, like, yes, this is the deal, we'll go through it. But rumor is that the length of term is one of those aspects as part of the CBA, and it's going to be shortened. So certainly another reason that if your player is eligible for extension because he's in his final year of his contract, that perhaps you want to get that in now before changes to term.
And honestly, why risk it? If you want to keep the player and the player wants to stay with your franchise, why would you risk the possibility or the potential that, again, the lure of money or term or both might be too big of risk for you to swallow if you want to keep a specific player.
Yep.
And
exactly.
I don't know, we'll get to this at some point, but I don't understand two things. I don't understand how Bill Zito of the Florida Panthers was not named GM of the year, and I don't know how he re-signed Ekblad, Bennett, and Marshy. That is a dropping of the gauntlet across the league, saying we're in this to become a dynasty.
Yeah,
and I'll show you how we're going to do that.
Yeah, that's truly astonishing to me because much as we have discussed how the culture of the team is very different, the way that Zito and his brain trust have gone about building a team is also a little bit different than I think we've seen in a lot of other teams. I talked about this recently when I was a guest on the Post Huggers. podcast saying that if you recall, Moneyball and the Oakland A's from back, 20 some odd years ago, where they took all these different random guys and based on analytics built an incredible team. And the Florida Panthers are pretty well known for being an analytics heavy team, looking for those guys that maybe are not the obvious best player, but because they have built a team where every player has a very specific job. That's something that we have talked about for years now on this podcast, that everyone has to have a job and they have to be really good at it. And
they have to understand what their job is. They have to understand how to execute it. And they have to understand and know what the ultimate goal or result of doing your job should be. And, we have talked many times on our own podcast about certain teams that we have both agreed don't play honorable games.
True.
Right. And the Panthers are one of those teams, and there are a couple of other teams in the league, but Jesus Christ, it's hard to argue with the success that they have and the impressive way they go about getting their business done.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. So that's pretty astonishing. But let's shift gears really quick.
Okay.
Because we've got about 3 minutes until the season
Ding,
opens,
ding, ding.
and we're going to get flooded. So, we'll be checking our phones and keeping everybody abreast of what's happening. And if you're listening to this a little bit later, because we're going to release this also as our podcast episode, you'll get to hear us kind of give our hot takes in real time. And for Bruins specific dealings, we will be doing deeper dives later in the summer. But first and foremost, for Boston, we've seen a flurry of activity even just in the last couple of days. We've had a number of extensions. So I'm going to go down the line real quick. And Maria, I want you to give like a super hot take, couple of words, give me your opinion, and then we can discuss later. Okay. So they have extended Georgi Merkulov in Boston at $775 cap hit for this RFA with arbitration, 1 year.
This player doesn't totally excite me in any way, shape, or form, anyways. So I'm kind of okay with it.
Okay. But, Henry Jokiharju, if you listen to a previous episode that we've already had, he's the one that we thought maybe wasn't going to be coming back. He signed an extension for $3 million for 3 years to make him as a UFA. Thoughts there?
I'm trying to understand how they're building their roster, and I'm still struggling with the process and the plan. So again, I'm not getting any warm and fuzzies.
Yeah, well,
at this point, I don't know. Call me crazy, but yeah, I'm not getting any warm and fuzzies at this point.
So we also have John Beecher, also extended for 1 year. He's currently an RFA with arbitration rights for $900,000. Welcome back, John Beecher.
I guess. Like, look, you can't give up on all these young players, right? But
true.
At some point, okay, so if this is an instance where, look, dude, we're giving you one more opportunity, okay?
Sure.
We're giving you one more opportunity to show us that you have what it takes and you're willing to put the work in consistently to show us what you have to warrant staying with our franchise.
Yep. Murat Husnudinov is another young man we talked about that we said that we wanted to see him come back.
Yes.
$925 for a 2-year extension RFA with arbitration rights.
I think that's a good deal for the Bruins. I think there is a potential for some good stuff to come out of this player. So I'm okay with that. And it's only 2 years. So, I have to give Sweeney some credit for he's not going all in with, these long contracts like the Edmonton Oilers did with a certain former Bruin. We'll get to that one too, I hope.
I'm sure. We're going to skip the one that I know you got thoughts on for a little bit later, but Michael Callahan got an extension, 1 year at $775. Quite frankly, I said yesterday, I don't even remember this guy. And
No.
Grant, I believe, said, and you can yell at me if I'm wrong. He played like 17 games and I have zero recollection of this guy. So, sorry. Any thoughts there? Because I didn't remember.
Look, I mean, each and every one of the players that you have mentioned to date, and I know that I've used this term on more than one occasion in previous podcasts, is I qualify them as Jags, just another guy. These are not going to be the building blocks for bringing you back from the abyss that you were in last season.
Right. All right. So we have a late breaking one from 20 minutes ago. So this is a little bit different. Let me pull up just on a bigger screen. The Bruins have made a trade at the deadline with the Oilers for Victor Arvidsson.
Yes.
So Victor Arvidsson, he has a 2-year contract. So he's going into his second year. So I'll be curious to see if this turns into a possible extension because he is a cap hit of $4 million with a no move clause. So either Boston was on a list. I don't know any of the details. So again, like I said, we're just getting the news. And Boston sends back a 2027 5th-round pick, no salary, retain. So that's kind of a last minute.
I did ask on Twitter.
Yes.
To Scott McLaughlin, who writes for WEEI and also is one of the hosts of the Skate Pod. And he said, what exactly are the Bruins doing here? So Arvidsson was Marcus Sturm was an assistant during Arvidsson's first year with the Kings. So Marco has some familiarity with this player. And in addition, what Scott told me is that he likes to shoot a lot, this player, and can average 15, 20 goals a season.
Yep.
Yes. So he has scored 20 plus goals 5 times. Scott referred to him as not an elite finisher, but he can pretty much give you 20 goals, and he can make things happen on the rush too, and good on zone entries. So, maybe because we've had so many issues offensively, both, 5-on-5 and with the power play with zone entries. Yes. So, thank you, Scott, for that context.
Yeah, at this point, I'm not mad about bringing in a forward who has the propensity to shoot. I don't care if all we're going to get is 20 goals out of him, because I think the biggest complaint, certainly last season, and I feel like it was probably the case the season before, is you can't just be reliant on those quality shots. Like, we don't have enough guys on the team who are elite enough. We don't have enough. Right. We don't have 10 David Pasternaks, right? So you just have to pepper them with shots, and you just increase your odds. And if you've got the right guys around the net and the right plays set up, they'll get one in, right? So I think this has some potential. We'll definitely do a deep dive on him because I'm curious about any other details around this particular player and what he could be bringing to the team. So that's great news. That happened literally 20 minutes prior to
a few minutes ago.
Everything that just happened. So that's great. So a couple of other kind of, what am I trying to say? Providence players, can't even think right now, that have also been extended besides Michael Callahan. We've got Michael DiPietro, who's a goaltender. We've kind of heard about him a little bit. He's the guy who came over from Vancouver, if you remember a couple of seasons ago, who was definitely the victim of the bubble season in his development. So I'm curious to know what they're going to be planning on with him, because he just signed a 2-year deal for like 8-12, which is like nothing. But he's 26, so I wonder if they are prepping him for some kind of support role in the future. Then we have Patrick Brown. Okay, great, 775 for 1 year. He's 33-year-old UFA. And then we've got the big ones, which are, of course, Morgan Geekie. That's the one that everybody was waiting for. Everyone was nervous, but you have to remember the qualifying offers weren't due in until literally yesterday. So they clearly were working down to the wire, giving us just a minor heart attack, because this is definitely a guy who would have been offer sheeted for sure. He was extended at $5.5 million for 5 years. So
I like that deal very,
pretty
very much.
fantastic deal.
I thought I thought he was going to kind of push for six-ish, somewhere in the 6 million.
Yeah.
But credit to him and his agent and to Sweeney, because I think that is a pretty decent contract. And the fact that he and Pasta worked
you
so
can't
well together, right?
that.
Honestly, you couldn't really run the risk of having him, Geeky, potentially go off to another organization, because I've said it once and I've said it 100 times. If Pasta's happy, I'm happy. And so should the organization be happy.
And I think it's actually a very fair contract. I don't think either side gave up.
I honestly, I thought he might use a little leverage to, maybe get a few more bucks. But you know what? Credit to him, because he said at one point during the season, when asked about his contract status, that, he really liked it here. And, maybe a lot of players say this because they're blowing smoke up our ass, but he really liked it here and he wanted to stay here. And, why not find yourself a good landing spot? And who the hell wouldn't want to keep playing next to David Pastrnak?
No. What do you make of the 5-year term? I feel like that's kind of an unusual term length these days, because you're either getting a 2-3 year bridge deal, or you're going all the way for the full 8. So we don't really see a ton of 5-year deals. What do you think of that? That puts him at 32.
Yeah. What is the length of Pasta's current contract? I wonder if that 5-year term has anything to do with that, to kind of try to keep them somewhat together.
That's a good question. It's probably close to the same time for expiration. I am checking it right this second. David Pastrnak is signed. Well, this only shows me through 31, and it continues on. And this would put him at, I think you might be right. Hang on, let me check here. Click on this. His deal goes through the end of 2030 to 31.
Okay. So that kind of, that.
And this is the same thing. They end the same year. End the same year. Yep. Although this thing says 6 years, so I could be wrong. There you go. That could have been from previous reporting.
But I think for the majority of Pasta's tenure here, right?
Yep.
He's got a solid line mate. And you know what? If they can become the next, the comfort level that, Bergeron and Marshy had with each other, do it every day, all day.
Yep. Yeah. 100%. And then of course the other big extension was for Mason Lohrei. He was an RFA with arbitration rights going in. He just signed a multi-year deal for $3.2 million for the 24-year-old defenseman. What do you think of that?
You really want my opinion?
That's why we have a podcast, Maria.
What? You know what?
I mean, we'll certainly, again, dig a little bit deeper in this one.
To me, my thoughts on this, it's an overpay. Like, what are you doing giving this kid $3.2 million?
It's surprising.
When you said, you yourself, GM, said he clearly has things to work on.
Yeah.
Okay. And now he had a significant regression, but the rest of the team did. However, I do understand he needed a pay raise, but $3.2 million?
Yeah.
You couldn't have said to this kid, even if I might
even if it was $1 million,
be able to swallow it at $2.5 million. But to me, that is where I think sometimes Don Sweeney makes dumb decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and again, people can disagree with me and people can tell me you have no idea what you're talking about. And that could likely be true. But I can share what my opinion is. And my opinion is that is an overpay. You could have taken that $1.5 million, okay, and set it aside for some other use.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, it was certainly higher than I expected, and my eyebrows rose, and I thought immediately, wow, he's getting paid. Well,
he's getting
a
raise for like having one of the worst plus minuses in the league. Thank you. Right? Sign me up for that job.
Yeah. And certainly, being paid as an RFA, no matter what flavor of RFA you are, being paid above the minimum that you are required per the contract to be paid, right? So he was due a pay increase. Being paid above that certainly is, your management showing additional full faith in you. And again, like you said, seeing a pay raise, I think he warranted a pay raise, certainly because there's something there. There's clearly something there. And they just haven't gotten it out of him yet. But that seems like an insane deal. There was also a trade, not Bruins related, right before noon. Sam Lafferty has gone to Chicago. So that's another person from Buffalo that Buffalo just keeps sending people away. So I'm sure he will probably do very well, although he is going to Chicago. So caveat. I don't know if they're actually interested in trying to get better. And then Montreal acquired Zach Bolduc from St. Louis this morning for Logan. I don't know how you say his name. Mayu? Maybe.
Sure. Can we talk about who we're disappointed in that the Bruins didn't?
Yes. Who didn't tender the qualifying offer?
Yes.
Not gonna lie, this was the other person that we talked about in a recent podcast episode.
Shows you what we know.
But you know what? No, it's not that we don't know what we're talking about. It's the fact that, to me, hearing that Jacob Lauko was not given a qualifying offer to return to Boston, to me says again, confirms the idea of what the hell is Boston's big plan. Because they're not being very upfront. They're not being very clear. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you get rid of the speed? Unless we are going to be wowed in the next, day or so. Why for nothing? I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know. It makes no sense.
That was a little kind of like disappointing because, as you said, we had our player snapshots and, talked about the players that were acquired at the trade deadline. And he was one of those depth guys that I thought, showed that he had, speed and he had some skills and a good work ethic. And why wouldn't you have wanted to keep him? Again, unless it was an instance of, maybe the player or agent had a different sense of worth than the organization did.
Right. I don't know.
It's a value,
I don't know. But some other big signings that, I think they're just extensions that have taken place because we're still waiting on some dig big news yet. These are all extensions. Connor Garland in Vancouver has extended his contract there for 6 years at a $6 million cap hit. That's a 29-year-old right wing, left winger. Another big one down in New Jersey, Jake Allen, the goaltender, he has extended for 5 years at 1.8, which is kind of interesting. Let's see. We have Logan Stankoven, 8-year extension, $6 million in Carolina. So that young man is going to be set for a long time. He's only 22 years old. He's only 22 years old, so he's going to be there for a while. Martin Fehervary has also extended 7 years for $6 million in Washington. Lefty. Thatcher Demko, goaltender, extended for 3 years at $8.5 million in Vancouver. What do you make of that, Maria? Thatcher Demko, 29 years old, $8.5 million.
Holy moly. Are you kidding me?
I am 100% serious.
I just don't.
Set the market, all right.
I mean, and again, excuse my ignorance, but is he on the same performance level as Jeremy Swayman?
So I believe I heard recently, probably 32 Thoughts, maybe someplace else, that they are interested in keeping him around because I think Vancouver is bringing in a new goaltending coach. And they want him to work with this new coach.
Okay, but you had to pay him $8.5 million and he still needs to work with a goaltending coach? I mean, again, was it not my franchise, not my money, but.
Right. Was it Thatcher Demko, the one who got hurt with like the weird knee thing, or am I thinking of somebody else?
Oof.
Was it him? I don't remember.
I don't remember. But even if
we need your help,
say it is, and
I think it is. So he's also coming back from, whatever serious leg injury that causes him pain that he's supposed to live with now, apparently for the rest of his career. So,
it's a little eye-opening. I mean,
Yep.
Yeah.
On a fun note, former Bruins legend Tomáš Nosek signed an extension with the Florida Panthers for the league minimum of $775. But good on him. 32 years old, just won a Stanley Cup. This, to me, screams, I'm just here for the culture and the good time so I can play hockey with joy.
I'm content being here. We have a winning culture, and I'm good with making under $1 million. And again, we could talk ad nauseum. Some of it might be, I know it's a tax-free state, but I think if I'm a player, that is a consideration. But more importantly, you are walking in to a set organization.
Yeah, well, bird in hand. You know what you're getting, right? The old expression. Everybody's least favorite player in the league, hands down, Tony DeAngelo, signed an extension in New York with the Islanders for $1.75 million. So,
that kid is like crap that sticks to your shoe.
I know. Well, the league does have a problem with actually shedding garbage human beings for good, right? So he came back. They can't seem to get rid of Vander Kane. Quenneville is back in the fold. So this is just your typical NHL handling of.
They love their reclamation. Look at and I do believe in second chances. Mm-hmm. However, my determining factors is based on what you did for me to have to give you a second chance. If what I thought you did is so egregious that I want nothing to do with you, you're not getting a second chance from me.
Exactly.
But that's just how I think.
All right. Philadelphia has just.
The Dallas Stars have a new coach, too.
Oh, yeah. Who did they end up picking?
They are hiring Glenn Gulitson.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Apparently, he's worked with the organization previously because the post from the NHL is he's back with a star. So,
Yes. Yep. All right. It looks like Christian Dvorak has left Montreal and he is heading down to Philadelphia on a 1-year deal for $5.4 million cap hit. 29-year-old center.
oh, and the, let's see. Oh, did we touch on this? The Montreal and Canadiens and St. Louis Blues made a trade.
No.
The Blues have acquired defenseman Logan Malou from the Montreal Canadiens for Zach Bolduc.
Yep. That's going to be a big one. That was right before noon. So there you go. And now we just wait patiently to see if Brock Besser, he's probably the next biggest one that
I
people are
think
watching and waiting.
he's probably, in my view, maybe the only big fish remaining.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So let's see. Christian Dvorak, we are marking him as in Philadelphia for, what did I say? 1 year, $5.4 million. That seems like a lot. Just a little. 5, 4. Well, there you go. Waiting patiently. Come on.
Yeah, there was so much activity yesterday.
Well, anyways, so tell me, who else do we have left who hasn't signed, who would be up for free agency? Let me pull up that list and let's see, because at this point, I think we have to assume that they have not been given any kind of offer. So we know there are a number of, besides Jacob Lauko, who has not been given a qualifying offer. We haven't heard any news about Cole Koepke. So I'm assuming at this point he is going into free agency. Vinny Lettieri is another one that I'm a little bit surprised that we haven't heard anything about. Parker Wotherspoon, I mean, I think we knew that was probably going to be the end of the road for him if he didn't get an extension. Thoughts on any of those guys?
Let's wait it out. Let's
wait it out.
Let's just wait it out. None of those guys, again,
it's
we
disappointing.
need to rebuild, and you can't rebuild with what? If you're going to rebuild, you can't keep everybody that you already had, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. All right, Bruins fans, if you're thinking about picking up some new gear, now's the time. I'm already planning to grab a fresh Pasternak jersey this fall. Who knows? Maybe he's rocking a new letter on the front. The NHL shop is running tons of season-ending and summer sales right now, including 20% off Fanatics gear. And here's the best part. When you shop through our link in the show notes, a portion of your purchases helps support this podcast. Same gear you'd find at the pro shop, but with way better perks. So stock up, save big, and help keep Bruins Tape to Tape rolling all year long.
Hey, Bruins fans, love the pod? Well, here's an opportunity to join the team. Become a friend of the pod on Patreon and unlock more Bruins content, merch perks, and the community we've built with diehard fans like you. For just $3 a month, join Gallery of the Gods. Get ad-free episodes, sticker swag, and a discount in the merch shop. Or go full legend with the Black and Gold tier. Bonus content, virtual watch parties, more swag, and full access to our Substack. No matter the tier, you're in the room with us. Tap the link in the show notes and take your spot on the bench.
So, what is the NHL free agency, and how does it work? Well, new contracts are signed every year on July 1st. When a player's contract expires on June 30th, he becomes one of three kinds of free agents: restricted free agents with arbitration, and unrestricted free agents. These statuses are determined by the Collective Bargaining Agreement, or CBA. The CBA is an agreement made between franchise owners and the Players Association. It all starts with what's known as the 27 rule. If a player is 27 years of age or has completed 7 accrued seasons, then they are automatically an unrestricted free agent, and they can negotiate their next contract any way they'd like. If the player doesn't meet either of those terms, then they're one of two kinds of restricted free agent. RFAs are defined by the amount of time that they've played professionally, their age by June 30th, and the age they signed their very first or entry-level contract. But wait, what's an accrued season versus a pro season? And how are they different? Well, accrued seasons are used in the 27 rule. A single accrued season is defined as 40 games rostered for skaters and 30 games rostered for goalies. Pro seasons are used to determine if an RFA is eligible for arbitration. A pro season is defined as a minimum of 10 games played in any kind of pro league, like the NHL, AHL, KHL, or SHL. The number of pro seasons needed to become an RFA with arbitration rights depends on the player's age when he signed his first contract. Players who are between ages 18 and 20 have to play at least 4 pro seasons. 3 seasons for those who signed at 21, 2 seasons for 22 and 23-year-olds, and 1 pro season for those who signed at 24 or older. If a player hasn't met these thresholds, then they are an RFA and must accept the qualifying offer presented. If they do meet these thresholds, then they have arbitration rights, which means they can actively negotiate their next contract, and if there is a disagreement, they can request a mediator to assist in negotiations. Players who opt to hold out as an RFA must have a contract by December 1st of that year in order to play in that particular NHL season. All RFAs expect to receive a qualifying offer. This is the franchise deciding to hold on to the free agent's playing rights. All QOs must be at least 1 year in length, increase the player's salary by a certain percentage based on the previous contract's total value, and preserve the one-way or two-way clause from the previous contract. If an RFA, with or without arbitration, is not presented with a qualifying offer, they automatically become a UFA. Hope this helps make sense of the NHL free agency. Who are you keeping an eye on this year?
So if you hear someone else chiming in, it could be my 1-year-old granddaughter with any hot takes she wants to share.
That sounds good. Well, while we still wait for any sort of huge blockbuster, and at this point,
Wait, for our team? Are you talking about our
anything? It's still pretty slow. And we're sitting and waiting. I want to hear your reaction to the Brad Marchand extension and signing.
Well, I don't think I'm surprised by the fact that he was going to stay there. The way he talked, even in a drunken stupor, I don't even know if he's sobered up yet. And good for him because he's partying like a rock star.
Absolutely.
The money aspect of it is a great deal.
Yeah,
and I almost
what he
want
was
to think
asking
that's
for.
like flipping the bird with both of his Stanley Cup rings on at the Boston Bruins. What I
Yes,
was
it was.
a little surprised at was the years, because that'll bring him into
Yep.
what, his 40s. And
Oh, yeah.
I know
Yep.
hockey players can play,
Yeah.
but he's had some, he doesn't have chronic injuries, but the last couple of seasons or so, he's had some, surgery related injuries.
Yeah, I definitely want to spend some time reading and learning a little bit more about his contract, because I wouldn't be surprised if it's built in a very special way that sets him up for payment and retirement. So, yeah.
Yeah. But a great, money wise, like
Yep. Well,
a great deal for
to your
Florida,
point.
great deal for him.
Yep.
He found himself a really good landing spot. Excuse me, somebody's got too many cucumbers in her hands.
Uh-oh.
He's going to be, if he continues in the role that he served them for when they acquired him at the trade deadline, then he likely will be able to play throughout the length of that contract, because he's not going to have to play those really hard minutes that he was accustomed to playing with the Bruins, which is his regular line, power play, penalty kill. When, the bench had gotten, when you shorten the bench, you're throwing him out there. The Panthers have so much flexibility with their core and their depth that, if they need to give him a breather, they can give him a breather.
Yeah. Well, and I think also if you consider the fact, so his contract for 6 years is worth $31.5 million. So yes, over 6 years, he's taking less money than what we've heard rumored was the conversation in Boston. But think about how many years he wanted in Boston. He wanted 3 years, right? Let's be honest. As much as I love Brad Marchand, there's no way that he is playing until he's 43 years old. If he does and he can, phenomenal. But what I think happened is some very creative thinking in terms of the accounting. Because if you take that $31.5 million and he does play for 3 years, which I think that definitely, I wouldn't be surprised if he plays for another 2-3 seasons. If you were to take that total value and divide it by 3, that's $10 million. So it is a better deal. He is getting paid more ultimately by Florida because, again, every season, the cap is going to continue to go up. His $5 and change million contract is going to become a smaller and smaller percentage of the cap. And he has guaranteed himself this money. So
I was surprised. I thought, and maybe he didn't get the opportunity to be offered more, but I bet that there would have been a team out there that would have offered him more than that. But again,
but not for
a
that
lot of
total
other considerations, right? Good
not for the total
organization,
contract.
a culture that he doesn't have to bust his ass trying to rebuild because it's already there.
Yep.
He's still on the East Coast. He's still nearby his family.
Yeah.
Quick flight. So, honestly, good for him. And, this second Stanley Cup all but guarantees that he'll be in the Hall of Fame.
100%. Yeah, exactly.
And he probably should have get in there, get consideration even before the second Stanley Cup. But this is like a no-brainer now.
Right. Exactly. Hey, look, somebody's in the waiting room.
Oh,
hi,
hey, Adrian.
Adrian, welcome in.
Hi. Okay,
Looking
crisis
as
averted.
handsome as ever.
Oh,
Nice haircut, by the way.
Thank you. It was really bad last week, and finally got it taken care of. As you can see, I'm reporting to you from a old-timey jail.
Old-timey jail, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I was popping in because I got tagged in, but Maria, you're back. But,
yeah, I'm back.
I'm
but
here.
I appreciate the backup because, as we all know, you both have young children.
Mm.
Never know when I'm going to have to say, excuse me.
Yeah, of course. While I'm here, can you guys quickly tell me about this Arvidsson guy? And
wait, there's some breaking news. There's
What's
breaking news about Brock Besser. It looks like he is. Was he playing for Vancouver before?
Yes.
So he has signed a new contract with Vancouver. He's staying there. Boo! 7 years, $7.25 million. So there goes that one.
A lot of really long extensions I'm seeing.
Yeah. Well, we were
in this.
speculating it's because the changes in the CBA that are likely.
And also, you know what? The other thing I thought of too, because, a lot of this sports are money driven. As caps continue to go up for teams, right? What's to prevent these guys from, potentially turning mercenary and then just shopping themselves around to the highest bidders?
So you lock him in at a low salary for long term. Yeah.
Why not?
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go. But yes, Arvidsson, Maria. At least he doesn't have to worry about ending up with JT Miller again. That's true. However, he does have to play with Evander Kane. So that does, yeah. Thanks, Grant.
So what did I say that Scott McLaughlin shared with me about Arvidsson? Hold on, I can.
Yeah.
Shoots.
Apparently, he
does shoot. Okay.
Yeah, he does shoot a lot.
Novel concept.
He's not an elite finisher. He has scored 20 plus goals 5 times. He can make things happen on the rush, and he's good on zone entries. And something we all knew was a debacle all of last season. 5-on-5 and on the power play. So,
are we thinking second line for him, or it sounds like you described a second line guy, but or where do you see him slotting in?
Here's my take this season, okay?
And if you're repeating yourself, I'm sorry.
No. This is just something that popped into my head. Put these guys wherever they have the best chance of succeeding and contributing. I don't care at this point if it's first, second, third, or fourth.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems like he's going to be potentially one of those players. I'm reading about him right now from Sportsnet that he is effectively a cap dump by the Oilers, but it should provide him with an opportunity to secure a top 6 role with the Bruins. Despite averaging 106 of power play ice time last year, he managed just 3 points with the man advantage. If he can secure a bigger role in Boston, the 32-year-old Swede should be capable of pushing for both the 20-goal and 40-point marks in 2025. So that's, of course, the biggest question mark, because at this point, we've got so much unknown going into this season with a new coach. We don't know what kind of coach he's going to be. We have no idea what the hell management is up to. There's going to be a ton of young guys, a ton of new guys. Who's the captain? So can the leaders of this team get the most out of someone who has this potential that someone in Boston sees?
All right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. This time last year, I'm like, trust the process. This year, I'm like, I don't know anything.
No. We know what the process is, and it can't be trusted because it is named Neely and Sweeney. So,
yeah, I was thinking last night that I just, especially after the expected news of Marchand, signing somewhere, and it was likely Florida, because I don't know where else he would go. Caroline, off topic, Caroline and I talked briefly, and I speculated that if we were going to get a chance at getting him back, winning a cup and just coming home would have been a lovely story.
I know, a happy ending, right? I mean, and not in the way that everyone thinks. Yeah.
Minutes after that discussion, that became moot. But I went through the rest of the evening just realizing that, I just don't recognize the team anymore. I don't know who is left. Everything seems like it's down to the studs, with the pillars of Swayman, McAvoy, and Pasternak. 3 very expensive players that had, okay seasons last. I mean, Pasta saved his season, but they've just been okay. So everything else is just murky. And unless we're nailing somebody that's like a 10-pole player, which it seems like those options are diminishing, whoever we pick up just doesn't seem like, it's kind of like, okay, let's see what you can do.
Yep.
Honestly, with the signing of Geeky in my head, it just seems like we're hoping to land another geeky 2 seasons down the road.
Yeah.
Someone that's going to come in and blossom because there's nobody in front of them.
Right.
And, but with this Arvids, I guess he's 32. Didn't know that, but okay. So that's not a long-term investment. That's kind of like you're looking for a little bit of age and grit there, and hopefully someone that can set up plays. But
yep.
I don't know. I don't know.
Other breaking news: William Eklund has signed a 3-year, $16 million contract extension with the Sharks. So there's that. 3 years at $5.6 million contract extension for the 22-year-old left winger. So that seems like a good chunk of change. He's also been injured, so we'll see. I'm interested in seeing what San Jose is doing, because between San Jose and Anaheim, thinking about all of these teams out there that are just basement dwelling teams, they seem like they're actually really trying, compared to like Chicago and Buffalo, who are like, hey, we're just here.
Yeah.
So I think that team could be
Adrian, to your point, the only thing that makes me this whole process palatable is the fact that another original 16 is in just the same state of disarray as we are, which would be the New York Rangers, right? Talk about a reclamation rebuild project going on there. If we think we have issues with our GM, they're feeling the same way about Chris Drury as we feel about our management team. Like, where are you going? What are you doing? What is happening here right now?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you look at you compare our plights to theirs, ours was sort of like a mappable slow descent that we thought we might be able to pull up from, and didn't. The Rangers was just a nosedive, an unexpected, completely out of the blue. Nothing worked, and now they blew it up.
Yep.
And being someone that lives in New York and like will frequently log on to meetings in the mornings and working with Ranger fans, you could tell the tone of the meetings this entire season of like, me logging in, holding my Bruins mug, and then like other people logging in, with their Ranger hats, and just being like, it's not good. So yeah, you're right. And it actually is funny because I'd forgotten about them, because I actually thought you were talking about Chicago.
No, they don't care.
Half of the original 6 teams are screwed at this point.
I know.
And the league seems to belong to markets that don't even have ice. So we've got 2 Florida teams, one in Las Vegas and Texas, I guess. So it's like
their master plan is working brilliantly, which is, they brought these teams in and, through various means. And I'm not saying there's collusion and stuff like that, but, the league loves nothing better than to have these small market teams. And again, these small market teams, we're talking about the Floridas, the Tampas, they were bad for a long period of time, while the rest of us, were raking and, having winning seasons and competing in playoffs and whatnot. But this kind of business is really good for the league, because, teams and franchises like the Bruins, the Rangers, and even, the Blackhawks, or the Canadians, their fan bases just love hockey.
Yeah.
Those buildings are as bad as a team can potentially get. Those buildings will not be empty.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Some more breaking news. Two signings. One, Bruins legend Dan Vladar is heading.
Where's he going now?
He's going to Philadelphia for a 2-year contract with a $3.35 million cap hit. And then details have not yet been reported by Sportsnet, but perennial cup loser Corey Perry is heading back to California, and he is allegedly signing with the LA Kings. So
Kings.
we know who's going to lose. we know who's going to lose in the Cup final next year.
Yeah,
Everybody,
right.
mark
I'm
my
just
words.
trying to see the appeal of Corey Perry. I
He's
don't.
40 years old. I don't know, like, I don't understand either. But
Yeah.
there you go. Corey Perry to LA. Yeah, I can't imagine what they're thinking. That
Yeah, I
he's
don't.
going to bring something other than heartache.
I mean,
I tell you what, he's not going to bring a Stanley Cup. Zach Chris is
Exactly.
going to follow
Exactly.
him to each team. So
Yep.
exactly.
Yep.
While they may make the playoffs, they're not going to win a cup.
There's a polarity issue there. Like if there's any part of the cup that's magnetic, like Corey Perry brings an opposite charge and can't get near it.
What
The
did
cup will never
he
come near him.
do after winning the Stanley Cup? What curse did he invoke after winning that one time in 2007?
I don't think it's a curse at all. In fact, I think he probably got what, I think about daily. And there's not a part of me that every postseason isn't reminded of the fact that standing on the corner of, Lexington and 25th Street in 2011, watching the Bruins play Game 7, saying, "Please God, I just want one. If we just get one, I'll never ask for another one again." And you know what? We never got another one again. And 14 years later, I'm like, well, I can't really get that angry about it. I mean, I said I just wanted one. So, so that's probably what happened to Corey Perry. He just unfortunately keeps getting close. And the universe is like, yeah, but you just said, just give me this one and I'll never ask for anything else. You don't get another one.
He didn't word his
you gotta
correctly.
Exactly. So yeah.
Well,
so all those near cup victories in Boston is my fault.
Thanks, man.
As any true fan just blames himself. Somehow you're responsible for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like last year, I had to stop flying the flag altogether because it was just making
Is it
things
me?
worse.
Exactly. The one time you forgot to hang it and you win, and you're like, oh, yeah, exactly.
Yep. I forgot once, and it threw the whole season off. But
yeah. No, I mean, hey, listen, when I went to the Centennial game, I was like, someone asked me, like, what happens if you pay all that money and they lose? And I said, listen, they have to win this game. If they lose every other game this season, I'm fine with it as long as they win the Centennial game. And they pretty nearly did. So
yeah, thanks, man.
Again, I'm not helping anybody here. I'm really sorry.
We blame you entirely. But all right. Well, it
is not you.
Yeah, it's totally okay.
Sure.
So we can't blame last season on anybody but the players and the management.
I'm sorry.
So
yeah.
Mo, he's not here. Let's blame Mo.
Let's blame Mo. I know.
Well, so we are sitting and waiting. We don't have to sit and wait too much longer. I have a sneaking suspicion that we won't necessarily hear anything from our boy Donnie. I don't know how that makes me feel. But we will certainly report out in future episodes what happens. But our hour has gone by.
Is any of us surprised?
No, I guess not.
What, that we didn't land anybody big?
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think we were in any position to do so, nor how attractive are we at this point in time.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, I think the things that we had going for us seem to have eroded. Like, I don't think we can make this. I don't think we can stand on culture. I don't think we can stand on winning.
Nope.
The best bet you can do is leadership. It's kind of it's market. Like, you can basically try to sell the market, but again, you also, I mean, I think you're dealing with a front office that I don't necessarily believe in their negotiating power. I think that they believe one thing about their negotiating skills that are not
true.
Like, I'm watching,
delusional about their negotiating skills, and I really truly believe that Cam Neely has a play card that he pulls out and he looks at and he says, "Okay, right winger, this age, this is as high as we're going. This is the max."
Yeah.
They have their own internal values that they have established, and they won't budge from them. And I had another thought too about even their scouting staff, because I know how frugal the Jacobs family is, and a lot of the players that wind up in our system turn out to be local players. Because they won't put the resources into allowing the scouting staff to circulate in order to identify. That's just, and I could be totally off base, but it's just something that popped into my head.
Although it does help that some of the best college hockey programs are in Boston too.
Well,
so
which one,
true.
right? Hockey East,
but
that doesn't mean you pigeonhole yourself.
No. I think there's a story there that they like farming local folk, and perhaps they're thinking down the line that they can parlay anybody into like a hometown discount. But on the flip side of that, I think that they, and building off what you said, Maria, I think that they also have this notion of them as being very shrewd negotiators, but their contracts, their last big ones, have been fairly bloated, and I don't know whether I missed earlier if you guys talked about Kiki, but it's sort of like, that's, I mean, I guess I don't know how I feel about it, but it's like, it's a lot of money, right? And he was hot the second half of one season, like a certain goaltender I could recall, and is getting and parlayed themselves into a good payday. And as I got that, I'm like, and what was the problem with Marchand? Tell me why you didn't have money for him. Like you keep being like, oh no, we've got to do what we have to do, and we've got to be shrewd, and we're going to arbitrate, and blah blah blah. But it's like McAvoy, Pasternak, Swayman, Geeky. These are expensive players.
I hate, and I don't want to cross sports, but sometimes their mindset and their approach reminds me of the Boston Red Sox front office, in that they think that they are truly the smartest people in the room, and that the rest of us who listen and watch and read and follow the team don't know what we're talking about, and we should take everything they do as gospel.
This is all very much giving, I don't know if you followed this news story a couple of months ago, when all of a sudden all the socials were filled with videos of folks from China saying, hey, your Hermes, your Louis Vuitton, your Nike, whatever, that you're paying this, premium price on for this luxury good, actually costs us like $5 to make here. And it's actually something super cheap. And it kind of like, yes, in the long run, it didn't truly do damage to those high-end products. But I feel like that's what's happened to Boston, that Boston was a high-quality product. What they had was special. And they kept trying to say like, no, it's still there. And someone just came in from China and said, but we actually make that in our factory for $5. So really, that's worthless. And people are seeing that now. And it's like, okay, what do we have to offer then? If, there's nothing special. Toxic culture, I can go to New York for that, and I get to live in New York City. Or I can go to, someplace else and like what, and they'll pay me more. So why, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of how I feel Boston has gotten.
And it also says something that the players I seem to remember the most out of over the last few seasons are the people that were only here for 1 year.
Yeah.
Like the amount of 1 year turnovers we're having on a lot of principal positions, like the core is eroded down to 3 guys.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember more about the names of the people who don't play here anymore than the people that are kind of coming in and like hanging out. I can't even remember most of them, which, when you compare that again to what has been built as a winning culture down in Florida, where the list of people signed for 5, 6, 7 years now is like every single one of them is a difference maker. And I don't think we don't have a lot in the tank. And it seems like we ought to have space to be pursuing these people, but it doesn't seem like we're doing it,
No.
No. And again, I may be circling back on stuff you've already talked about.
No. But I mean,
I'm just kind of coming in.
We haven't talked about it today. We have talked about it in the past. I mean, it is what it is. It's part and parcel of, a lot of the reason why we find ourselves where we are.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
We can only hope. We can only hope that we have a modicum more success than we did last season. And I don't think that's a big threshold to be looking at.
I mean, I think if there's any silver lining that one could look at, is that you are truly starting from almost with zero inertia at the beginning of this season. And a coach is going to have to come in and go, okay, like as an organization, you just got gut punched. Like you've really got no tread anywhere.
Yeah.
So whatever happens now is something that we've got to build. We're not coasting on anything. You can't have McAvoy come in and say no good never comes from winning in October as if something's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully everybody who is there goes, whatever happens now is on us to make it happen. The culture needs to be rebuilt. And if everybody buys into the system in the Sturm system, whatever it might be, then maybe they can get something going.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're going to win, I don't know how competitive we'll be, but like what I'm looking for is just something that's entertaining and engaging to watch. I want to see him trying, I want to see
and something to build on, right?
Yeah,
you need something to build on.
Yeah. And so I guess in that case, it doesn't really matter who's on the ice, because it's not like we're trying to slot in a position to make something happen. And by that, I mean, it's not like we're looking for a couple of pieces to put us in a position to actually succeed. It's like we're starting from here. So, show me what you got.
Yep.
And hopefully it's, I'm not going to get bored or frustrated or whatever,
Well, so, with all that, why don't we'll call it a day. Kind of a fizzle of a free agency frenzy for
I was afraid that would happen with all of the activity that occurred yesterday, because I saw a lot of social media posts about not that it's a bummer, it's exciting, but it's more fun when it's on the actual day.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like when all the Super Bowl ads come out before the game. It's like, why bother?
Yeah.
But I know
whoever ends up signing, like I said, we will do some player deep dives, figure out who these guys are, maybe think about where we could see them. Plus, we're going to be talking about development camp next episode. We've got our very own Mary Beth on site at Dev Camp this week, representing Bruins Tape to Tape. If you remember from last year, she hopped on the show and gave us a real great rundown of those players and gave us a heads up on the players who showed up for rookie camp. So she'll be doing that again for us. There will be some pictures and things also on our socials about what's happening there. And the last kind of housekeeping announcement, we're going to have a special guest for our 100th episode, which is coming up in about 2 weeks. So make sure you are subscribed, that you've liked, that you're following to get the notice. Check out, again, our merch and our Patreon in the show notes. And any final thoughts, Maria, Adrian?
Do I have final thought? No.
Just give me a reason to watch hockey again. Just give me a reason, please, to watch the Bruins again.
You know it. All right. Well, thanks again, everyone. And as always, go Bees.
Go Bees.